Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tata Steel 2024, the first major chess event of the calendar year. We've got many big names playing. This is the 10th round out of 13. The tournament is in the final stages, and in this round, we got a rematch of the World Chess Championship that just concluded in 2023 between Jan Nepomniachtchi and Ding Liren. Jan Nepomniachtchi has been active. He has been competing all the time. This is Ding Liren's first major event since actually winning that title and then returning home and recovering from all the potential stress that it caused. So this is a very big game. I will also cover Hans Niemann for you. I've got some other very big games from this round. Here we go. Jan Nepomniachtchi opens with pawn to e4. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop to b5. We have a Spanish. And Ding Liren plays a6 and knight f6. Not playing a Berlin with knight to f6 straight away, but entering the main lines of a Spanish with bishop a4 and knight f6. Both these guys are very well versed. They play on both sides of this opening on many occasions. Castles, bishop e7, and now Jan takes the first step out of mainline theory. Rather than continuing with rook e1 followed by c3 and d4, he plays d3. And Ding likes to keep this pawn back, and then he likes to play d5 in one go. D5 in one go, as opposed to going d6, is known as the Marshall. It is actually an opening that Magnus Carlsen plays quite frequently, but b5 and d6 is now played because Nepo committed to this move, as opposed to rook e1, c3, h3, etc. Now Jan plays c3, Ding castles, Jan plays a4, striking at the queen side, looking to make a little bit of a difficulty there for Ding. And now Ding plays bishop d7 after about 4.5 minutes of thought. Ding could play many things here. Bishop d7 is one of the moves. Rook b8 is also possible. It surrenders control of the a file, but many people have played like this, and then they try to put the pawn on b4 like this. That is definitely a possibility. You can probably also just play bishop to b7, so it defends your rook, and then you can take back. But Ding plays bishop to d7, supporting the pawn a little bit. And Jan plays bishop to a2. Spends a few minutes there, slides the bishop back, and the major question is, why did he do that? Like, why didn't he put his bishop on c2 to support the center and then go for d4? Why didn't he play a5 to potentially just kill the tension there and then go with that plan? Like, why is he leaving the door open for Ding to do? Why didn't he play h3 or bishop e3 or knight d2? Like, so many moves look possible in this position, but I think it's basically, knight a5 comes with a tempo. And then maybe black will try to play c5 and very quickly activate. So he plays bishop a2, kind of baiting Ding to take. And then he's saying, like, you know what? I'm actually not afraid of this. You have a weak pawn in the endgame. A lot of subtle intricacies of the Spanish that you and I could live lifetimes and probably not understand. Now Ding plays h6. Clearly, both guys are on their own. Many things cross your mind here. Now knight a5 doesn't come with a tempo. It would be actually a very bad decision because white would just play b4 and put the knight back on c6. Because if you play knight b7 here with black, you should, I don't know, probably be beaten physically for knight b7. But unless absolutely necessary, of course. So Ding doesn't do anything on the queen side. He plays h6. It's just a waiting move. Maybe he will use the h7 square in the future, but it's also to prevent knight to g5 or bishop to g5. Jan also waits. It's a waiting game, but at some point, both guys are going to run out of moves. All right, now Ding plays rook e8. Also a little bit of a waiting move. He has rook e8. He's maybe going to put the bishop back on f8 to support the center and d5 ideas. Put the bishop there in the future. Rook e8 is always a useful move, almost always. The computer really wants queen b8 for black. Really wants this queen move, I guess, to try to get this. It also wants to utilize the d8 square to reroute some pieces. I mean, the computer's suggesting some really dank stuff here. Rook e8, bishop e3. Instead of that, Ding plays here because he's a human and not an AI. The computer still really likes queen b8. But Ding does this. And basically, I guess the idea is to take the eye off of the A file. Knight bd2 played by Nepo. Major idea here, will black take or will black play b4? No, black is still waiting. Black is actually still waiting. And now we get a wild move. We get g4. Now, this is insane. This is insanity. The fact that Jan Nepomniachtchi just spent 10 minutes on this move tells me one of two things. This is either all his prep and he has the best poker face of all time, like he's pretending to think, but actually this is the idea. Maybe this is a similar idea from a different part of his prep, you know, because the thing about these Spanish openings is like, maybe you have a position where the bishop was here instead of on a2 and the rook was there. Maybe there's a position where the pawn on f7 is in line with the bishop and these pieces are arranged like this, so g5 could come with a little bit of a tempo. This is nuts. To attack somebody in a Spanish without the necessary preparations of like rook e1, I'm just making moves. Like here, g4 makes a lot of sense because you have backup very quickly. To just do this is nuts. Like, I'm hoping that he had some files on this. If not, this man is the modern, version of Mikhail Tal. So just play g4. And the thing is, there's no guarantee this attack even works. So Ding plays bishop e6 and trades off his bishop. Now, Jan wishes he could almost play g2 in this position. No. He takes once, activates his rook. Dude just keeps going forward. He's a madman. What? You can't play chess like this. Evidently you can if your name is Jan Nepomniachtchi. This is gangster behavior. HG, knight g5. Now, Ding didn't have to take, but like, if he didn't, then it would have gotten take. Jan would have slid his king out of the way and the attack would have continued. And then he would have put a knight on f5. And then he would have gotten his queen out. And then this would have been bad news because this bishop is better than that bishop. This knight is not as good as either of these. So HG, now Ding has to go back. The position's still fine, but now here comes king h2. And my man is just going to attack on the g-file. This is crazy. I have never seen a modern day grandmaster game in the Spanish with such an early g4. I'm sure games exist. Like, I'm sure grandmasters could say, oh, 2019 Aeroflot Open, board 17, this guy, that guy hadn't showered in 2 days, this dude was wearing a red shirt. I'm sure that's what they could do, but I can't do that. I have never seen in top level chess average rating 2775 for players to play like this. Ding strikes back in the center. Computer doesn't even bless it. Which is like crazy. I mean, they always say attack on the side is best answered with a strike back in the center. That looks very good to me. But rook g1, and there's some very nasty intentions brewing on the g-file. d4. Take, bishop slides out of danger. And now Jan says, I do want to trade, but I want to trade on my terms. So if you take me, I'm going to take with the rook. You have to take me, though, because if you don't take me, I play f4. Once I got 2 pawns rolling at you, the pawns leading the attack is always the best, unless there's, like, a checkmate. But the pawns going into battle first will push the opponent back, because otherwise he's going to lose material. So we have bishop g3, and now rook takes g3, right? And Nepo's still building his attack. Now the king unpins. That's a tough move to play, king g1. And that's why he spent so much time. He spent 25 minutes. Jan Nepomniachtchi doesn't spend 25 minutes on literally anything. Except maybe sleep. Like, Jan Nepomniachtchi, he moves fast. All right, king g1, 25 minutes is crazy. Rook a8, they trade, and the attack continues. That's a fork. Now, one of those pawns is much different than the other, which is why Ding defends the one near his king. Queen b5 is a free pawn now, but there's actually knight h5 here, which probably just draws the game. The point is, if rook f3 is played, then there's rook a5, which is really, really vicious. So you got to keep your rook guarding the knight, and then they would just repeat moves. So that's why Jan doesn't take. Knight f3, rook b8, rook b6, and Ding is trying to build up a defense. And now Jan plays this move e5. And Ding was under pressure for most of this game, but now is a very critical moment. He plays knight h5, rook g4. It's a big decision to make. What do you do here? Apparently, you need to put your queen in the center. That is the way you have to play, and then you have to use your f-pawn. They always say don't push pawns where your king is being attacked. Well, sometimes it's time to break those rules. f5, lashing out, might be the critical idea, or even f6 to try to get rid of this pawn, bring the knight back, and despite only one pawn being the difference between you and your opponent getting, your opponent just completely destroying you, you have to use your f-pawn. But instead of that, Ding thinks and plays rook b8. And he's been a bit off his game this tournament. And Jan plays queen c5 and then knight e4, and the attack regroups. The knight now cannot return to battle. The f-pawn now can't move. And now queen d5 is still the last resort, but after queen e6, rook h4, Jan's just winning. Rook d5 on the board, queen a3, the sniper in on the back rank, the knight is hanging, you can't stop everything. Ding goes here, knight fg5, and he just resigns. He resigns because queen a8 is a massive threat, so queen e7, queen a8. If you block, then there's this. But the other portion of this is actually the fact that you can sack your rook. So for example, if knight g5, queen d7, you can sack your rook and then play knight f6. So seeing that all those threats are coming, Ding resigns and Jan Nepomniachtchi gets revenge. Now make no mistake, this revenge is aight. Winning a game in Tata Steel is not winning the World Championship, but Ding Liren has now lost 3 games in Tata Steel. I'm not miscounting that, right? It's either 3 or 4. And he's down to 2760, which is wild. And Jan Nepomniachtchi bounces back. I mean, trust me, if Nepo could choose world championship and losing this game versus no world championship and winning this game, he'd choose the world championship. But it's a good revenge game. And it shows you that right now, the throne of chess is really up for grabs. Like, we have a world champion who is the world champion, but we have a non-world champion who's obviously the best player in the world. And we got like 10 guys that are chomping at the bits. I mean, really, this candidate is very exciting. And Ding's got to find his way back to form. I mean, there's really no way, there's no other way to slice it. But again, Ding stepped away from the game for like 8 months. This is what happens. You don't do something for 8 months when you're a former top 5 player or top 5 in anything, and that's what's going to happen. Now, Niemann versus Mendonça. This is a very interesting matchup. This is a Indian Grandmaster Leon Mendonça, who's apparently like his name has Portuguese origin, which is what the comment section always tells me. Versus Hans Niemann. This is a very weird opening that they play. Hans played a very cagey setup, a lot of pawns on the 3rd rank, and we got into a skirmish early. Hans had his patented 30-minute lead on the clock with good pressure on Black's position, so Leon tried to force the issue to trade off some material, and by the middle game, Hans just had a very pleasant edge, and basically it was up to him to try to chop everything down. Leon again forced the issue. Hans locked the position and now started taking space on the queen side. Leon again tried to force the issue, but Hans built up a very pleasant advantage, which he then had to simplify into this type of a position. Maybe earlier in all of these shenanigans, he could have done a slightly better job. Like maybe around here, he could have done things slightly differently. But overall, instead of queen c2, like I think queen c1. And if Black had done this, then there would have been slight differences. And maybe you could have tried to go here. If knight takes d4, rook d4, knight e6, rook d5, knight c5, at least the queen could have been utilized to like go to the e3 square to try to then play e5, etc. But Hans put his queen on c2 instead of c1, and that's the way chess works. Sometimes you put a queen on a square, and now you're just going to have equality. And when I tell you that you're about to have equality, I am not exaggerating. This game went on 70 more moves. And the thing is that Black just has a dark square blockade. That's what Black has. Now, if you do the math, you may realize that Hans Niemann is up a pawn. You may wonder when that happened. Well, it happened here. Leon gave away a pawn and then won it back, but at the cost of losing one of his own. It does not look like White's position is a pawn up, but it is, and it's that pawn. But how do you get rid of the blockade? Well, Hans is going to start. There we go. There it is. Now, if Hans can get rid of this blockade and open up Black's position, he is going to be winning. He's trying his best, but Leon is defending himself. Queen d4. All right, now Hans walks the king back. I mean, you should have some winning opportunity, but it's a really tough position. Queen c5. White's king is a little too open. We have now crossed 60 moves, and now we go to an endgame because Leon correctly trades, and the drawing chances now are astronomical because despite being a full pawn down, he has a total defensive fortress. And this goes on for a very long time. Hans king gets extra cardio, runs around the board, runs around the board, runs around the board, and then he has to give up a pawn to get a pawn. But this is just a draw. You are not going to win. And this game goes 112 moves, and Hans Niemann unable to break through. Mendonça, who low-key is having an excellent event. I will tell you about that later. I got more decisive games coming for you. The tragic story of Max Warmerdam in the last 2 rounds has been really a sight to behold. He probably should have had 1.5 out of 2 while playing a gambit with Black. Instead of that, he has 0. He lost both to Gukesh and Parham. And in this game, Nodirbek Abdusattorov smelled blood. Remember, Abdusattorov is winning the tournament. He is tied for first. And he, God bless him, plays a Queen's Gambit accepted line that I love to play. I love this Bishop G4 line. It is terrible. Terrible. But the surprise value of it is very good. The thing is, if White knows you're going to play this line in a classical game, he will prepare it. But as you see from the time spend, Max Warmerdam, he plays in a... By the way, I am saying that right? It's not Warmerdam. It's not Warmerdam. It's warmer here. Damn. Like, I've been saying Warmerdam, and then I've been seeing comments like, why is he pronouncing it with a V? It's a W. And I don't know if the people writing that are Dutch or American. Because, listen, we Americans, we don't know any... I mean, God bless an American trying to say Nodirbek's name, you know what I mean? So I am just curious. Anyway, as you can see from the opening, Max is down 21 minutes. It's not that he didn't know how to play the opening, it's that he didn't remember the cutting edge way to get an advantage. And the cutting edge way to get an edge might be to go here, right? Because black is surrendering the center. So castles, h3, bishop e3, like this might be the way to get the biggest advantage, which is point 3, because chess sucks. But instead of that, Max does it his own way, right? He plays rook h3, now he's down 34 minutes on the clock. But Nojibek has to try to play this for a win. How's he going to do that? He's going to try to keep as many pieces on the board as possible, and now he's going to try to create very microscopic weaknesses in his position to try to get some dynamic play going. It's a very, very tense struggle, and one guy is down 40 minutes, and that guy is right now suffering in the tournament. So Nojibek builds up this massive wall of pawns, right? Only one pawn has been traded, literally. They both have all their pieces on the board. It's a very tense fight. At some point, one guy is going to have to break through, and as you see, Nojibek begins attacking on the king's side. He gets his queen there, and just too much hesitation from Max, who has 19 minutes to make 18 moves. To get to the time control, Nojibek smells blood, puts his knight on b4, f4, and oh my goodness, too many pins, too much pressure. White plays pawn takes f4, and now Nojibek plays knight d3, and White's gonna have to lose material. He's gonna have to lose something. He moves his rook, he gives up the bishop, the knight is stuck, but queen d2. But Nojibek saw all of that, so he gets out with his knight. Pawn takes a4, bishop b4 in between move to get the rook back. Now g4 from Max Warmerdam, trapping the bishop, but he sacrifices his knight. And when the dust settles, a couple moves later, Nojibek has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He has 2 extra pawns, and he has a rook. So it's rook and 2 pawns for 2 knights. But somehow, White is okay. I mean, White's got a lot of pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. And Black's pawns are a little slow. Now, what should Nojibek have done differently? Apparently, b4. Put a knight on d5. And then try to play that position, like continue to bait g4 out of your opponent. This knight is hanging, but the rook is hanging. And if White takes, then here's a nice little way to get your queen stuck on a1. That would be really, really nice, right? So, but what happens in the game is, what happens in the game is Black is actually not much better. Bishop c2. And not only is Black not much better, Nojibek continues to try to attack Max, who completely shuts down the position. Black can't move any pawns. And before you know it, despite having almost no time, he makes the 40th move. Max Warmerdam is winning. He's winning. He's going to take the pawn. He's going to make a queen. Oh my God. What a comeback. This is massive. He's about to take down the leader of the tournament. Rook f6. And now, instead of grabbing this pawn, he had to go knight c7. Idea being, he escorts the pawn to the promotion. He completely leaves this pawn. It's kind of hard to do because rook d4, I mean, a little hard to do because it looks like you're going to get mated. But the pawn gets to a7 and it can't be stopped. Rook e1, queen e1, rook d8, a8 queen. Take. I don't know how you're going to lose this with White. I mean, you might not win because Black has a very powerful pawn. But you can't lose. Queen e2, b2, bishop e4, stopping the pawn. It's crazy, but instead of that, Max says, you know what? I'm going to grab the pawn. Rook f4, queen b1, rook d4. The position's back into balance. Knight d3, rook f8, rook e3. He's got to defend himself, but Nojibek just gets the pawn back. And the reason he got the pawn back is because this was a fork. So now Nojibek got the pawn. He's up 3 pawns. He's got a rook and 3 pawns for 2 pieces now. 2 pawns. But White's king is so open. Could Max survive this? He was better for a moment. He was worse for a moment. Now it's equal, but it's... Oh God, I mean, this doesn't feel equal. I mean, White's king is getting mercilessly hunted around the board, but he grabs a pawn, and now he's only down 1 pawn. The king is safe. Bishop h3. Uh-oh. Rook f1. King c2. Uh-oh, queen g6. White's position is feeling a little loose. Max runs his king, but... Oh, bishop c4. He had to play queen d5, maybe. He plays bishop c4 with 3 seconds on the clock. The last chance to survive, there might have been something like queen d5 or even king c3. I can't even begin to explain why. But he does it this way, and now he can't go to c2 because rook f2, knight f2, queen f2 wins the rook. So he goes out with the king, and now the king is hunted, and it's over because of this. The king ultimately gets stranded on an island. Nobody can come help. Queen c4, rook b1 check. And the game is over. Your king is forced to the A file, where you are unfortunately met with a variety of different checkmates. And Max fought and fought and fought, but the tournament leader grows his lead. And listen, Nojibek is a fighter. He is always there to fight. And I have more decisive games for you. Max Warmerdam does not, 0-3 there is wild. Donchenko coming off a big win versus Firouzja versus Gukesh, who's also in first place. Bishop d3, d5, take. We have a main line and a Queen's Gambit decline structure where Donchenko just comes to fight. He does not spend any time. Look at how many moves he's played. He hasn't even thought. All right, knight b6, g4 on the board. We're looking for an attack here. Gukesh plays knight c4. Clearly, the opening battle has been won by Donchenko, who takes the knight, seizes the entire control of the center, and is ready to keep going. Apparently, that was a bad move, by the way. Apparently, the tension needed to be kept, and he should have castled. But watch as my man Donchenko plays d5, and Gukesh does his best impression here of a judo expert, utilizing all of his opponent's forward momentum against them. In wrestling, that's a little bit of a thing, but in fighting, sometimes you just pour it on your opponent. I'm not saying any of you have been in a fist fight. I was only ever in one physical altercation, and it was when I was 11, so I can't say I have experience fighting as a fully grown adult. I actually lost. It's kind of embarrassing. It's kind of embarrassing story. I'm going to tell it to you in about 30 seconds. I was hanging out in the neighborhood, this was in the suburbs, which was a dark part of my life. And there was a little kid. He was very annoying, and there was me, and I was a lot taller than this, little guy. And he tried to get in a fight. So he grabbed my shirt, right? He started pulling on my shirt. My shirt started ripping, and I thought it was unfair if I fought this because I'm a lot bigger, and I was a good kid. I was raised by, I was raised in a nice, respectable household. I wasn't taught to beat up people who I'm bigger than. So I kind of try to subdue him. So I try to sit on him, which is a tactic. You have younger siblings. You sit on them and then they can't move. So I kind of try to wrestle him down and just not let him. And while I was wrestling down, he punched me in the face. It's the only time in my life I've been punched in the face. I was punched in the face by a 9-year-old kid when I was 11 or 10 years old. He just punched me. I was like, where did a 9-year-old even learn that was an action you can do to a human? Got to be a rough household. But he got me real good. And remember, I went home and I really didn't like that my teeth hit my lip, and that didn't feel good. That was the day I realized that I'm going to be a chess YouTuber and not a fighter. So there you go. That's my story. Anyway, the analogy that I was going to make for this game is that some people pour on the pressure, and some people take their opponent's forward momentum, like in judo, and then you land a flip. And watch as Donchenko walks down Gukesh with all his pawns. This really looks like a bullet game. This man does not stop making pawn moves, while Gukesh puts all his pieces on the back rank. I'm not even exaggerating, by the way, right? And says, come get me. He's like, all right, I will come get you. And it's a moment away from mate. It's literally, plays g6. And now there's this big moment, what next? Because I got news for you. Black is coming as well with b4. So rook d1, he gets his king to f2, and Gukesh says, I only have to move one pawn. You did all of that stuff, but I only got to move one pawn. Knight e4, and he just moves one piece off the back rank, and White's entire attack falls apart. Knight to g3, and Gukesh, a cultured man, God bless him, sacrifices the rook. Knight e4, and now White can't move. White can't move. All of this is on the way. Knight f6 check. And this is, I'm going to lose my queen. So I'm going to lose. So sack the queen first to take yours back. e4. We come in with a check, and Gukesh. Brutal. Bishop takes b4, a counter sacrifice. We trade everything. Gukesh, a principled man, goes straight for the endgame. When it's all said and done, Black is up a pawn, and he has the bishop and the knight for the rook, so he's up 2 points of material, and it's a clean. He doesn't make a draw. Plays f5. You can take en passant, but the king is coming, and Black just locks everything down, kicks out the white king. There is absolutely no way to capture anything. Maybe here Gukesh could have been a little bit more accurate. He could have, you know, he could have played like king d5, for example, king here. And Gukesh is going to convert this with a slight headache. Whoa, 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 whoa. What is... So the rook is in jail now, which is kind of hilarious. You can go to g7 to sack your rook, and now black can't really move because he's got to go knight h6. But it's winning. It is winning, and he get one pawn survives, but it's the only pawn that he needs because he goes king f5, and it's just enough distance between these pawns that you win. King g3, knight f4, and he resigned because you would win this by going b6, throwing in a check, and getting the knight back to stop the pawn. And some of you might still be confused why this is a win. It's a win because under traditional circumstances, this is a draw, right? Under traditional circumstances, this is a draw. Well, black would not go here, black would go here. And now, yeah, that's what would happen. So Gukesh wins too. He's also winning the tournament. And the last game that I have for you, this is Roebers versus Marc-Andre Maurizzi. And Elena is, the last couple of rounds, she has been like a heavyweight boxer. She is coming to entertain. Marc-Andre, man after my own heart, plays Carl Khan, plays e6, playing the Gotham course, by the way. Although I recommend knight c6 and e6 both. And he plays my line. I love this line. I don't like to put the bishop on b6. I like to put it on e7. I like it so much I'm going to look at it from his perspective. And now what you do with white is with black is you play knight d7, f6, knight h6, knight f7. You also play a5 to induce the pawn to come forward. Just watch and learn, nerds. f6 played. You'll notice that Elena is spending a little bit of time. a5, it's exactly what I do. Knight d7, knight h6. Perfect. And now she plays the best way. I mean, she's playing in kind of like the cutting edge style, trying to attack the black structure. Castles, knight bd2, fe, the position opens up, and now he plays bishop f6. We have this moment of tension. I mean, if black plays all the moves of theory, black is just going to be equal because that's chess, and chess sucks. And he plays queen c7, has some good pressure on the white position, but white is doing fine. However, if white for a moment underestimates the black position and plays something like knight f7, when the dust clears, black is going to be very happy because white never castled. So he does not go for the knight, he goes for the bishop. And now queen e4 check, and she's got to move her king. And yeah, that's, I mean, this guy has been like a shark in the water. He literally needs just a brief moment of weakness from the opponent. You can't take the queen because of the pin. She tries to trade. He goes to the other side. Elena takes the pawn, bishop d5. And I mean, he's already looking for various attacks on the king. White goes here, queen takes b5 check, queen goes back, h4. And h4 is the mistake. Apparently, white has to put the king on g3. I guess that stops queen h4. She decides to move the pawn. That allows black enough time to create counterplay on the b file, and it goes from bad to worse as he plays rook b3, as he plays queen f4, and rook b2 check is game over because queen comes here. And there is no easy way to stop all the threats. Queen g1, queen d2. And the threat in this position is very brutal. The threat is this. It's protected, but the knight would stop guarding that. You go here, white is forced to checkmate themselves. Marc-Andre Maurizzi now has 7.5 points. Dude is winning the entire section with 7.5 out of 10. That's insanity. That is insanity. He's completely destroying everybody. I mean, it's unbelievable. And Leon is in second, so the person that I just showed you. And in the open, it's Gukesh and Neuderbek up with 6.5. Ali Reza drew Anish Giri today, so Anish was under pressure quite a lot that game, but he defended. And kind of shocking, the second highest rated Dutch player, Jordan van Forest, in last, which is a shock. Meanwhile, Ju and Liren tied with 4. Tomorrow's a rest day. We have a couple more matches to go. And then we will crown a winner. Get out of here.